Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you for your patience, and let's do this. Okay, okay. Oh, not again. One second. I have to shut down my system and then reboot it. All I can. I just have to make sure that all of these charts, these new charts, are saved because it's doing this annoying thing where the chart is just like very small. It's not like it doesn't go full screen, which just doesn't look good. And especially when I share the screen, it's just very important for it to be filling the screen. Okay, so these are all saved. Okay, so I'm gonna actually do this too. All right, so go to that one. All right, shut down. Okay, here we are. Here we are. Perfect. All right. So let me check one thing real quick. Okay. I'm reading the DMs. Where is it? Okay. Yeah, you really know astrology well. But where is the where is it? I think it's here. Where is it? Okay, here. Um, Here it is. Okay. Challenging Houston insurance. Okay, so purpose. um, wait. So you, Jamie Finn. Okay, cool. I was just like making sure. Some people think me and Haley are like together because I keep my girlfriend and there were a lot of private, very private with my relationship. But you were talking about her. Okay. All right. So pretty straightforward. So let's just screenshot that. Okay. All right. So minimize. Okay. Coolio. All right. Let's share this. Stop video because I like to like close my eyes. Been doing this recently. Literally like just like meditating when I'm doing a reading. All right, where's my meditating crystals? It's funny you mentioned human design because I just had a human design book pulled because someone made it was going to DMs for so long today. And vocal cords are definitely throat chakra is definitely the thing about me is that um, when it gets going, it just doesn't stop. I do think a lot. It's just about getting it to start. Some days I just ain't feeling it. So, anyways, all right. So let's take a look. So we have the really close to me, rising in Leo, 26 degrees. Chiron rising. I mean, it's 8, but like they're both it's exactly 8 even. Um, and Scorpion moon, not a Hades moon, but Pluto is on the IC like me. Wow. We're born the same. No, we're both Pisces. We're both have Pluto IC. Crazy shit. All right. Is it square the nodes though? No, but your sun and your Mercury are Venus square Uranus Neptune. And the moon is squaring Chiron. Huge Purgatory. I just feel it. All right. So clearly, you are here to whenever I see this Mercury square the nodes, I'm like, I know that especially when the nodes are in, when the node is the south node's in Gemini, right? Like Mercury ruled. I just know that there's something big there. And that's like a major skip step. And then the fact that the sun is also, it kind of creates that hero's journey, like past life kind of hero's journey. But Mercury square the nodes is very interesting. Because there's a lot of I always think of it as like the person who like there's something like around like the Mercury life, the mental life, like the communication, all that stuff that was just done in a wrong way. When I think of Gemini South Nodes in the 11th, I think of maybe conditioning around like just like not like being in groups or causes or whatever that didn't push you towards the truth, which is Sagittarius, your North Node, right? So you're doing a great job at getting there just by your knowledge of astrology alone. I can tell. A lot of times with these people, that with this axis, I've noticed that they struggle to, you know, even though Gemini is, you know, a mutable sign, they struggle a lot with getting out of like the known, right? Because Gemini rules the immediate environment, and and it's like the journalists, right, that collects all the info is Gemini. The person who takes that info and creates guiding philosophies out of it is Sagittarius. So they're both very necessary, right? And you know, like the air quality. Let me guess, you have no air in your chart. Let's see. So far, Jupiter, and yeah, so you have. I was correct. Like, I mean, no inner planets is what I meant. So the reason I guessed that is because your South Node is in air sign, air house. So it's like, okay, she's probably already conquered the air element, right? I see this quite a bit. So even though you don't have air, which, you know, still like doing breath work is really important for people who have air and getting fresh air and all that stuff. Um, it's something that just comes very naturally, right? And I think of it as like when I don't see it present and I see it as like the South Node, I'm like, okay, well, she's conquered that in a lot of ways, but then the Mercury square is massive because the way I would define that is that there can be lots of interjects, like kind of like over, like what it can be like overly rigid thinking, um, you know, like maybe even lacking discrimination to like what you're bringing, what kind of material you're taking on board, right? Um, there's all kinds of possibilities, but it revolves around the theme of the mind focusing on things that are more minute, less big picture. Um, and also I think of Gemini South Node as being for the potential of like of someone who um just kind of stay close to home, I guess you could call it that. Like in the sense that like if you want to call them like the risks related to taking that big leap, you know, taking that big Sagittarian leap, maybe just weren't there, right? Um, so that's, you know, I find that significant, for sure. And aside from that, yeah, so it's really important to like know what are you taking on board? And you have Mercury, wow, another I just had one. Mercury in Pisces retrograde, conjunct Black Moon Lilith. So, you know, it's in the eighth house too, like so you have the same thing as me. So, but you know, mine and it's not combust, right? 21, or is it 15, 6, 6? It would have to be 21. It had to be 1624. No, so it's just outside the combust zone. So that's good. But yeah, like so that's like the Pisces. So you're a big part of the purpose in this life is around like emotional movement forward. And shadow work. Um, I'll get into that. But there's another element, right, where you've passed a lot of the tests related to air, into being in community, into being um you know, social and all that stuff. But it's really important to like, you know, the South Node ruler rule by you know, square the South Node ruler. The fact that the South Node ruler is squaring the South Node, right, is a key indicator that, and it's retrograde in, you know, in its debilitated position. It's really, and it has Black Moon Lilith on it. It's really speaking to this skip step being super important. So the big way I think about it is internalized messaging interjects in psychology. Usually it's someone who can be like very critical, like self-critical, have a tendency, like a karmic tendency to be like that towards themselves. And sometimes it's so unconscious, it's so hard to see. Um, right? And because being a Pisces, you can take on like a lot of like there can be like a lot of internalized guilt and shame that you take on negative emotions that aren't yours. Um, so and these essentially kind of have like a Virgo effect where they undermine the strength of the person's, you know, character and kind of overall personality. Um, and you know, when someone so it's really asking you to look, you know, and that's why you're a Scorpio moon, right? It's really asking you to look deep within yourself in this lifetime, to really, really dive deep, 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 and you know, figure out what is, you know, what is that? You know, what like what part of my life is that alluding to, right? Or am I thinking? And it can also be like just communication issues in general, right? Like trusting other people, um, like lying and being a liar, you know, having something, you know, but like also it just really relates to like the way I see it with North Node and Sag is that, you know, the way that you thought and kind of moved, right? Whatever it was, the tendency kept you away from let's say like the right people, the right situations, right? That would lead you towards the Sagittarius, which is about like the grand truth, you know? So in this lifetime, you're, you know, there's things that happen that kind of pushed you into that position. Because, you know, whatever it is, the lies or the conflicting view as to the nature of the truth may have had like very deep consequences for you in prior lifetimes. Um, so it's like whenever I talk about this one, I think I'm like think about like someone who's just like all about money in this current incarnation. It's all they care about, right? Like they're literally like obsessed with making as much money as possible, and they just that rules them, you know, like that is what kind of runs everything for them, and they do horrible things. You know, I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying it's, you know, that's kind of like a potential of it, right? Everything's potential. So the fact that the sun, you know, they're both squaring is super interesting. Why is it interesting? Well, the sun square the nodes is really a big indicator of um kind of like the big, I guess, like, you know, your purpose in this lifetime. It's like really to kind of resolve this karmic um these karmic issues, right? um so from Pisces to Gemini, it's clear, right? It's clear as night and day that um that we're dealing with, you know, eighth house Pisces, which is like the as deep as it gets, right? Like we're both eighth house Pisces, we're both deep as fuck. um Versus Gemini, and we know that the shadow of Gemini can be a little bit flimsy. I don't know what flimsy means. Be honest, keep it a buck. Um, but hmm, but yeah, like the sun, I think it really, really, really it brings that kind of Joseph Campbell like hero's journey. Um, and you're being asked in this lifetime to really kind of create your own road and a personal vision, and a lot of times it's in isolation, right? Eighth house suns, they usually like, you know, like Scorpion moon, like I don't imagine you being just this like, you know, the Leo rising obviously, yeah, but like I don't imagine you just being, you know, you definitely need a lot of alone time. You're very, very you know, intense, and you're not into the bullshit shadowy like stuff. I'm very happy we have a follow-up too, and I hopefully you'll add the current astrology to that. I'll talk about it later, but I'm very happy because it's gonna be really cool to meet you because we have so many similar placements and excited for that. But yeah, so basically like the square, right? So the house and sign, we that is like, so Pisces versus Gemini, Scorpio versus Aquarius, like that is what's playing out. You see what I'm saying? Um, and this also indicates that this current life is super, super critical in the resolution of this unresolved kind of karmic stuff. Um, and that you every like with the Pluto in your IC, which I have as well, as I said, like that's like that kind of that early childhood or just trauma early on that pushes you. And with your Scorpio moon, probably the mother, right, having like some karmic issues there. Maybe like I've had Scorpio moon people who they weren't wanted as a kid, just rough childhood, rough relationship with the mother. Maybe the mother is manipulative or controlling, or there's just, or maybe she was just really really stressed, or depressed, or anxious or whatever at the around the time you're born. And being a Pisces, you're a sponge, so you take on so much of that. So a big part of this also is letting go of knowing what's yours and what's not yours, right? That's huge. Um, but hold on a second. One moment, please. Okay. So yeah, so like yeah, those planets compared to like the depth of Pisces Scorpio, which you are a Pisces Scorpio, it's like just it's going from Aquarius Gemini to, from air to water, right? That's the transition, the karmic transition for you is air tendency to water. So that's difficult. And you know, it's massive. So this is the ultimate karmic kind of aspect in the sense that it's really like the core nature of your individuality is kind of like mimicking this square, right? And yeah, like I said, like maintaining a personal vision that might be like often in isolation, that might be in conflict with other people around you, right? Because it's really speaking to this big challenge to individuate. So I think like the Mercury one is just massive though, like because Mercury, the mind, right? In Pisces, obviously, is very psychic, but retrograde Mercury, obviously in Pisces would be easier than most other retrogrades, right? One can even make a claim that Mercury retrograde in Pisces like might even make sense. One could even say that like Pisces is like Mercury's are already like in retrograde. Um, but the point is that a karmically a retrograde Mercury is like someone who their way of thinking, their thought, like something along the lines of what I was saying before, like it held them back, right? So now you have all this Scorpio energy, which is about looking deep and very observant, and you have this like crazy fourth house of like IC with Scorpio and then the moon, and it's showing you how, kind of back to what I was saying about the sun, you, the parents you have, that's, it's extremely karmic, right? It's extremely karmic, and it was meant to match your, um to perfectly match what you're trying to achieve. And I read something beautiful the other day that said that sometimes, soulmates of ours, like, like soul people that really love us, will take roles on, like astrological roles, that are in complete, like they'll take the ultimate sacrifice and like take on a role in a lifetime where they're kind of like opposed to us, but they make us work on our shit, right? um but in reality, so like it may seem like like it could be like a really difficult parental relationship, but really they just like, it's like all out of love, like deep soul love, even if it leads, even if there's like, it just seems like that's impossible. But yeah, so Pluto IC, like, it's just that internal tension where, in order for you to get to this, 22 midheaven Taurus, which is like exactly like very close to what I have, um you need to overcome the, whatever this is, right? Which, right, this is the trauma that it's not squaring the nodes. So it would be in this lifetime, right? And essentially Pluto, I see people like, it's one of the tougher transits or aspects, because there's something really bubbling. So I always tell people with this kind of placement, like if you still live close to Arizona, like it might be good, if you haven't already like looked into astrocartography, to, you know get out of there. Just, I mean, like, yeah, it's cool. Like, okay, look, like I have this, right? So I have direct experience with this, and whenever I go back to California, I feel that pressure. Um, because yeah, so it's the same thing for you if you're living around, like, I'm guessing this is close to Phoenix, which my dad used to live there, by the way. I love Scottsdale, Phoenix, for some reason. It's so weird. I just fucking love it. My dad moved there after my parents got divorced, and we'd go, and I just like, just some of my best memories from childhood. But yeah, this would really speak to like a like traumatic childhood, and unlike mine scores the nodes. So this would, so mine's my more karmic, but basically like very volcanic household, just, difficult relationship with parents, most likely, with that moon square Chiron, and the moon in Scorpio, potentially a very controlling mother that, brought you a lot of pain with your, and was very serious, probably, mom, I like to call like early nurturing, and it made it, with Chiron and Leo as a Leo rising, it makes it hard for that Leo rising to feel like they can just be a kid and just let go. So that's the work, is basically around, um, learning how to just let go, right? Learning how to just be a kid and play. Um, that's the Chiron journey for, someone with this placement. Now, let me switch. I know this sounds so much better, but I like to walk around. I'll probably go back. Okay, so now, whenever I used to use that mic, let me just test that. Hello, hello, hello. Check, check, check. Okay, good. So, anyways, so everything kind of combined, right? We have like an idea already that, you have this tendency, there's a karmic tendency to kind of play it too close to home, not take, the risk. Kind of Gemini is like, I think of like the person who's like gossiping at like the barber shop, like,
or like kind of like the old lady who's like talking about like the town drama. But for whatever reason, um, so you're very good naturally at acquiring information and all that Gemini stuff, right? And very curious. Now it's about, but for whatever reason, like, whether it was like, sorry, Esme, you need to help me with this reading. Come on, come on, come sit on the left. Come on, Esme. Yeah. So for whatever reason, stay here, stay here. You like the crystal? I'll show you, Esme. So here, let me open some. Good girl. You want to help me with this reading? You like this one too, don't you? Yeah. Crazy little girl. Okay. So basically, we have here like the Leo rising would have had a lot of difficulty being unleashed. And let's see what Esme looks at. This is what I do. This is why she's actually a cat astrologer. Okay, Esme, I want you to look at the thing in the chart. Remember, this is you're the best. Just tell me what is really important in this chart, okay, Esme? Look. Oh, you touched something for the first time. Oh my God. You touched, oh my God. You saw that, right? She literally touched your Venus in the ninth house in general, which is about traveling, which is linked to your North Node. Nice, Esme. Good girl. I need to like film that. Esme, that was so good. What you just did. That was amazing. How'd you do that? You just pointed at that ninth house Venus. I put you by my computer. I've never had you actually grab the computer and like point with your hand at a house. How'd you do that? Esme, how'd you do it? You just got skills like that? That's that question. Esme, that was so amazing. Yes. Skills like that? You got skills like that, Esme? Sorry, I forgot. Astrologer? Huh? Best? Are you the best? Okay, that's good. So yeah, Esme brought that new dimension into into the the realm. Let's go back to this. She's dipped out. Anyways, so Yeah. So here, we have like I see it a lot in readings, honestly. This Leo Chiron, so I know it very well. And it must be frustrating for a Leo rising because Leo risings they want to play, and it's close enough to the rising. So just like getting past, it's like, you know, I moon, people say mom, right? Son, dad. But like for me, especially like if you grow up in America, like a lot of times it's the mom who is the son. I've seen that happen in charts. So I think of it more as like the nurturing, Moon is like the early nurturing that you needed as a Scorpio moon just was not there. And in fact, it was almost like, trauma and all that is very, very subjective. So what one may experience is just like not that bad, another may experience is trauma. But when people are meant to be healers and who are meant to be like, um whether it's healers or like a big part of their life purpose is like on an energetic level, right? Like this is kind of what pushed you into that. And being a Scorpio moon gives you that depth, right? It gives you that depth and that real need in this lifetime to go through the death rebirth transformation process that Pluto on the IC would have pushed you in early. So yeah, I was saying this the other day, people with charts like this, like they're battle tested. And I'm the same thing, right? It's like we're battle tested from a young age, right? We know like what the worst, we know about like the worst potentials of humans, right? We're not naive, like, and that's why as healers we're able to make great healers because nothing can trigger us that much. I mean, we have to protect our energy, of course, and maybe I'm speaking for myself with that, but like you're just able to really connect with people on such a deep level, and I think you know moon square chiron, it's really through the resolution of that of all that Scorpio energy, of all that shadow work. Like look at all this Scorpio, that's your sign. Speaking of my whatever, my post of like what is your sign, yeah, definitely Scorpio, because I mean this is all in the eighth. And like so the core mission, the ruling planet, the sun, right, like me, is in eighth house. So with Series, conjunct Series and Black Moon and Mercury retrograde. So it's like you're meant to go, and then the fourth house moon is like like I also get a lot of like ancestral, you being the one that's meant to like really change things on like the ancestral family bloodline, right? And like that's a big big task, of course, right? So all these things at once. So that's why it's such an important lifetime. And it could have just been like I just think that like that in the previous lifetimes where which karma you're dealing with now, you just missed the mark in terms of like that Pisces, because Pisces versus Gemini is literally just like I guess like low Gemini to high Pisces, if you don't think like that, is going from someone who's just like a socialite, who's not really so not very deep. Not saying Geminis can't be deep. I'm just saying that like Pisces is the last sign. It's the mystic. It's the person who it's connecting everything. It's a chameleon. It's the dreamer, the empath, the compassionate one. All the things you know about Pisces, right? And then eighth house suns are meant to go through these massive transformations throughout their life where they can't even recognize themselves because they've changed so much, right? So I can definitely vouch for that. Where you feel like these older versions of you were just actors playing you. Um, so the sun isn't really aspected in a difficult way, and has the sextiles and then Trine and Pluto. So it's like Like the sun is interesting, right? And I think of in this chart, like the sun is very like the life purpose, right? And if you think of of the sun, where's it's for like Venus, right? So the sun is trining this Pluto. So like the more the more shadow work that you're doing, right? And I overuse that word, but it's a large scope I'm covering. Like the more of this emotional, energetic movement, the better it is for you, um, in this sense, right? Eighth house, you're meant to be in the like in the shadow realms, studying the esoteric and anything that takes you deeper. And this is a very interesting example of an eighth, ninth archetype. So eighth being Scorpio, ninth being Sag. The North Node's in Sag in the fifth house. So that's speaking to one aspect of your karma in this lifetime, which is fifth house is Leo. So there's one big mission of yours, which is to overcome this Chiron and Leo, which squares the moon. That's mission one, right? And sometimes Scorpio moon can be too serious. So it's like how to loosen that up. And that's what Leo is. Leo and Sag is humor, it's fun, it's adventure, taking chances, right? So that's one aspect of what it's asking you. So then with the another thing about Sagittarius is obviously traveling, right? Traveling different cultures or traveling metaphorically with different, with different traveling metaphorically, like learn, like astrology, like different philosophies, human design, whatever it is, um, things that like people that have like water house, suns, moons, like they have this natural like curiosity about things like astrology and things that help them understand themselves on a deeper level, right? They're very linked to it. And a lot of times it's because they felt misunderstood as a kid or they didn't get something, right? But that was all karmic. And then they're meant to be able to, lead other people into their transformation. Now you are still in the midst of your Saturn return. So, I would definitely recommend, unless, you're really, really under, like you do sound like you know astrology really well. So, I always tell people like most people get the follow-up and they add the current astrology, which I would add for, I do it for 250 more for you. It becomes like a long, live session. It's called current astrology / spiritual alignment. But if you know it well yourself. But with the Saturn return, if you want to add the Saturn return chart, I just add like 20 more, so it'd be like 370. But yeah, so you have to let me know about that. But yeah, like basically it's just very interesting, right? Because there's two things that stand out right away. And um the North Node, like being able to travel, being able to be free, being able to kind of escape. I nearly wanted to say escape like family. But just like, there's this idea that like running away to a new place, is it really an idea? Like some people like feel that internally, that this internal shame. This can be a big theme for someone with so much water, right? Um, that they owe like their family or like because especially with a Mars Cancer in the 12th house, there's lots of karma there, right? And there's a drive to, like there can be like some stuff that goes on with the family, right? That it can make someone feel like they need to kind of be there and whatnot. And maybe they do, but at the same time, I think that you can handle karma from a distance, you know, if it's better. Sometimes it can be even better. And I know when someone has like Pluto on their IC that they are, if they're living close to where they were born, they're living on their Pluto line. So yeah. And Pluto IC line, right? That's one of the worst. Pluto IC, Mars IC, Saturn IC. So yeah, so we see these two things. So unleashing the Leo rising, also like is connected to you fulfilling the eighth house Pisces sun, like the more you evolve, the more you let go of like the loose baggage, right? The more light your load becomes. And the more light your load becomes, the more of that Leo opens up. It's literally like magic, right? The like each time that you take like 1 ounce of that heaviness, 1 ounce of heaviness off that Scorpio moon, new opportunities come. New energetic levels and potentials just arise, right? So that's super important to know. But like the 8th house, it can be someone who gets so much out of like healing other people, right? And they can have such a great talent for it as well. But sometimes, the question can be like, how do I, like, especially the 11th house, South Node, there can be sometimes like too much of a kind of, one sec, my food delivery is calling me. Hold on. Hello. What up? Cu brócolis și pesto e ok, cred. O lasă-mă să gândesc pentru o secundă. Asta sau signature burger? Cred că o burger, signature burger? Da, cred că e ok. Ok, mulțumesc frumos. You too. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Vegetarian food. Not a vegetarian, but I just like it. Like this place, so fucking good. Like the burger, it's like better than like beef burgers. And it's not like Beyond Meat or anything. I don't know what they use. It's not like fake shit. It's just so fucking good. Anyways, so the more I look at this, the more it's clear that, there's a need to kind of like escape like the immediate environment and align yourself with people who push you towards kind of like, and there could be like lots of solitude, right? But to being pushed towards more freedom, to where you're really, really being able to kind of be yourself. Because as a Pisces with the Scorpio moon, especially Scorpio moon, like there can be this really like deep attachment to the mother where you might have like taken on and still maybe do a lot of her, and it can be very unconscious, not just like emotions, but because Mercury is like how it is, it can be thoughts, and sometimes like when we're around people in their auras, right, and know this from human design, right, it's like we take on different energies are created, right, and composite shows us all that. So when we can really like escape, and 5th house would be like, it's okay for you to be a little bit selfish in this lifetime, if it's for the greater good of your soul, why not, right? So that's very important. Now aside from that, we also have a lot of other things going on, but I just want to continue to say that like learning about just like energetic, I mean, and I'm not saying you don't know about it, but like energetic protection is just so massive for you, and really, really looking at that square of like, what are, how do I limit myself? How do I get in my own head? Because Mercury retrograde natally means that you are, you're meant to be, especially if like until this probably this part of your life, more like more in your head and like kind of like contemplating like, how do I want to think? What do I want to communicate? Like, so it can make people quite shy, and very, very artistic and right brained. But it's meant because like let's say Gemini just talks without thinking, right? Like on one level, right? So not all. I'm just saying like for the purpose of this, right? This would make you very, very like analytical in the sense of like how you come off and what you say, and the Scorpio moon makes you think, like, feel that really, really deep. And so it's really like you're observing all these things and these tendencies you have from past lives, and you're trying to evolve past them and let them go. That's like so fucking massive and karmic, and it's such an important lifetime for you, right? The face, you're like really, like, you chose to face a really, really dark, like kind of like darker karma, and the soul grows like that, right? And it's usually early in life that will kind of play out. Now, um, for someone like yourself, it's with a, is it a grand trine I see? Yeah. So there's the water grand trine and water houses. That's like an exceptional gift. Um, and so to have that, right? It can be so strong that some people with that don't understand like how tapped in they are, you know? And like that goes back to that Mercury square. So I definitely think that you're someone who's really like devoted to like what you do. Like when you find what you want to do, like you can really just, like, Leo risings can just like, they have that fixed energy, right? So it's like fixed fire that can like get passionate about things and then go towards them. But the Chiron is what needs to be overcome. But I think Chiron in the first house and make like, being a healer, healing and being a healer, like a big part of your identity, right? Of course, that can also lead to like, yeah, shyness, and like a lot of the people with that, like they almost have to skip over that part of just being a kid and just enjoying life in that sense, right? Now I know that in Pisces, like a lot would shift, right? I know that the Chiron being the 12th and the Mars would probably be the 11th, or would it? Probably, yeah. But still, regardless, with the Mars there, that Grand Trine, it's very easy to like take it for granted and to think like, oh, everyone else has these abilities. No, they don't. Okay. So your depth is not going to be reciprocated by everyone else. And a lot of people, you know, like, so, like you're a dreamer, right? You're a deep dreamer, and it's really about making these dreams come true, and it's about finding the right niche in life, the right place, the right people, and um, no people or a few people is better than the wrong people. And the Saturn turn now, very, very karmic time, obviously. Um, so I think with Mercury retrograde, like you start, you look at the progression, and when it comes direct and the progress, that's an age where things really, really start to open up. May have happened already. I'd have to look at the current astrology, but by progression, it moved backwards and then it goes forward, and then the year it kind of hits 15. Like, let's say it goes back by progression, like 14 or something, and then takes 14 more years for it to go back to that point, right? It'd be that year, and that the Mercury would be direct by progression, and that's when like a lot would open up and be unleashed. And Mercury Pisces is a blessing. It's like the connector of this side with the other side, right? Um, so I think that having that placement, right? Having that placement is very, very key to this entire chart. And I think that what it does is that it makes you look at those karmic introjects deeper, right? It makes you look at all of the self-limiting beliefs on a deeper level, and it connects to everything, right? And so you're super, super aware of all of the zeitgeist of the generation, of the emotions of others. So having that spaciousness for yourself is super important, or you can just kind of cling on to energies. And Pisces obviously can sometimes lack boundaries and want to be the savior, so that's really, really important too. And it's also really important, being an eighth houser with the moon Scorpio, to not have shame as you evolve and grow, because it's a lot of trial and error that's involved with this, right? It's not easy. Pluto IC is not easy. So to be able to like excuse yourself for anything that may have happened, and also to, you know, uncringle yourself with, you know, your mother, your parents' kind of family expectation. That's very, very important. So yeah, very important, very, very, very important. So another thing about just having that placement is that, yeah, you either like talk slash thought, talk too much, talk too little, you know, thought too much, thought too little. There's some imbalance in the mercurial process, right? And you know, if there's an imbalance in like the mercurial process with that, you know, like I said, like the South Node in Gemini squaring, you know, the planet that rules it, Mercury, like that's a major thing, and the Sun squaring the South Node too. So, you know, you're really going from Gemini to Pisces in this lifetime, and it's you know, Pisces have Scorpio, and that's about being brave when it comes to taking these big risks, especially the North Node dads. It's all about taking risks, right? Just different level of risks. So being able to do that is massive. And yeah, so like the first 30 years of your life or so are meant for you to like kind of analyze yourself and look around and into your depths. And then after that, kind of move forward, or whenever, you know, the progressed Mercury would go direct, or would come back, yeah, to hit the natal Mercury, right? That's like a huge year for people who have retrograde natal Mercuries, especially in Pisces. So yeah, essentially, like, you know, you are also, yeah, so there's definitely like that need to, yeah, to look at all those things. I always tell people like write down, you know, any self-limiting beliefs that you might have, and you know, like really think like, hey, what's mine and what's not mine, right? And that ends up being like such a massive thing. Also, I think that because of this massive energy you have in water, like, you know, you can be like a very big revolutionary, right? Um, like you can become with Lilith on Mercury, like someone who's really aware of how to use words, and with Jupiter and, you know, like, oh, that's so fascinating, right? Um, that's so fascinating. You see all these connections, right? Um, being someone who knows exactly how to use their words, right? With the Lilith and Mercury, someone who can be a voice for those, you know, who don't have a voice. But then you have Jupiter, in, you know, down here in your third in Libra, um, and, you know, retrograde. So it's like the internal philosopher, right? And that kind of gives you this great ability to see and speak the big picture, you know, which is like a blessing. So, you know, like I said, it's a very, very like specific cause and specific like purpose for you to be here, like, you know, why you're here, whatnot. And, you know, it goes to that Venus, which rules the midheaven, right? We want to look at like more about the Dharma, which is what Esme looked at. Esme looked at, you know, your Venus in Aries, right? She pointed that conjunct part of fortune in Eris in the ninth house. And the reason that um that's so important is because it's really through travels, through um, explorations, through you know, through these risks, Aries risks that you take, whether it's in love, you know, whether it's you know, just like, you know, really just going out and like and find and you know, just when it comes to philosophy and you know, just overall truth, right? And that's really how you want to have your career. Like this is literally like, I'm so close to my chart, but it's like perfect for an astrologer, like a psychologist, you know, someone like that. You'd be able to really probe deep, and you want to have so much interest in what you're doing because you've been through so much. You're able to really assist others. And then you have all like these really like intuitive placements, like the sun, you know, the Mercury retrograde in Pisces is like, that's crazy, right? That's like, um, you know, you're so able to tap in. And, you know, I think that you're able, like, through that period of life with that Jupiter, to have like amazing communication skills with also that past life kind of air quality, right? So, you know, it does create a very, you know, intellectual, creative mind, kind of revolutionary, like the Lilith impact. So yeah, it can be like add some kind of straightforwardness. And also you have to think of it like this, like Lilith potentially being a part of your chart that can be like the lowest potential, or something that can be transformed into the highest. And how, you know, like a lot of times Mercury Lilith people, like they have this like compulsive need to speak up for those who don't have, you know, have it in them to do it. But yeah, at the same time, you know, there's just it's very good for like intellect, and very good for like kind of like the chess kind of mindset of like being able to kind of like plan. And that's Pallas is also in Aquarius, so you know, you're very in with Saturn, so you're very much able to use your kind of like third eye, and that part of you that's linked to you know, planning and strategizing for the best. And I think like when you write and speak through your heart, like with that raw emotion can come out, and it can be a little bit like intense for some people, but then there's the people that it really that need that, you know. So you know, it's really good to like have like a you know, like an outlet for this all this energy, right? Because there can be like a lot of rage that comes from like truly seeing like how fucked up things are, you know. And it not everyone sees it like you do, right? Not everyone has that ability. I feel you, like as a kid, like I used to like look at cows and get so sad, and like everyone else around me like didn't feel like that. I was so confused. So yeah, very very deep stuff. Now, aside from that, so you see kind of how this process is, this karmic process is like kind of leading to this deep soul evolution into water, into compassion phase. So then it's like, okay, how can what I'm doing, how can my dharma, you know, I don't like to use the word career, but you know, how can like my like kind of like outer life expression of all of this that I'm learning internally manifest. And you know, to have it in Taurus, like I do, right? There's a level of stability that's desired. But then you really look at the Venus, like my Venus is in Aquarius, right? And what I'm doing career-wise is very Aquarian. Yours being in Aries, it's very much like a leader, conjunct Eris, and a teacher, you know, a leader, a teacher, and like someone who's just meant to experience a lot, right? Move towards that North Node Sag, and just go, and just like you're on this deep quest to find what matters most for you, you know, or like what the real truth is. And it might take you to human design, might take you to astrology, might take you to this country, that country, who knows, right? And the key is that like also like the part of fortune Eris is there. So it's like there's this kind of like not to be fucked with energy, but then your real flow state is found, right? When you're very independent, going back to that whole idea of um, you know, going back to that idea of what was it? Going back to that idea of like how, it's okay for you to be a little bit selfish for the greater good in this lifetime. You know, all the energy in the ninth part of fortune, with Venus, Eris, Venus, Eris part of fortune, it's, like you're at your best when you have this independence, right? And it also goes to that Venus, right? Which is squaring Uranus and Neptune, right? I know you want to know about aspects. Well, the Venus squaring those, and those are coming from the sixth, you are not someone who's made for like the 9 to 5 daily hustle bustle, right? Like it is not good for you. You want your daily routine to, with like Uranus, like me, it's going to be a little bit odd. It could be a little bit odd and not kind of based on tradition. And then Neptune 6, you want to be your daily routine or your daily life to have some level of compassion, spirituality, your work even, right? So that's very, very important because it can be very very, very difficult for you to kind of like feel at ease in like a 9 to 5 job or something, right? Like that can just be so rough. And so yeah, so those squares, and we'll talk about the love stuff in a little bit, but those are key. But back to what I was saying before at the very start, and I discovered this very like so true for me, was that the only like when Pluto's opposing your midheaven, right, on the IC, the way that you have to kind of like overcome that, um, like you have like the way to get the most success out of your career is to overcome all of the fears and all of the potential trauma that's found down here, right? Until that's confronted, it can have like energetic like consequences on how much you're able to expand and find that career that's so fitting to you, right? Now, um, let's see here. So boundaries, 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 boundaries. I can't say it enough. Like you probably know it, but like the Piscean is so compassionate and giving, and in love sometimes they can be a little bit um like there's interesting energy here when it comes to like love and relationships and stuff because you know like on one end like the Aries something in charge of it. Hold on, I'm gonna have to pull some. Is it working? No, it is. Yeah, so keep working. So yeah, like basically it's where was I? Kind of lost myself there for a second. Um yeah, well, it's not working. I'm gonna have to do something. Okay, hold on for just a second. It's gonna disconnect some stuff. I'm gonna just hit. Okay, it should work now. Let's go back with. I have the final big football match on, so I need to be able to see the score. I'll peer up, but don't worry. Okay, test, test, test. No, wrong one. No. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test.
Mm.
Test, 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 test. Test, test, test. Test. Okay. So let's go back to where we were. Um, mm, yeah, so lots of, very obvious things, and you're at your best when you're just ninth house Aries, right? When you're in that fire zone, when you're just like being independent and you're mixing that kind of fiery side of you, right? The Leo rising, fully leaning into that, transforming. And a lot of that with Scorpio involves letting go. Scorpio moon can be difficult to surrender and to let go, So, there's definitely a lot of shadowy stuff that has to be worked through. But then that's the ultimate sign of a healer, right? Yeah, I need to check on my food too. I know it's hectic, but this is just how it is. Okay, so it's probably here in 11 minutes. So anyways, let's check. But you have like, like the grand trine, the Mars being involved can really help you kind of like rise to any challenge, and the moon, Mercury, it's a beautiful trine because you can communicate the depths of your feelings with ease, and you know, it really does with that Jupiter in third house make someone who can have a talent for, it would probably be a more of like a right brain intuitive kind of like, I'd be very surprised if you didn't have some type of like psychic ability or high intuition. Um, but yeah, like really making decisions based off of both heart and mind, right? That's massive. And then, the last end of it, you know, they talk about which ones about that. Um, yeah, like Mercury and Mars trining is just very good also for like being able to like kind of like get things quick, right? But because of Mercury retrograde, like early childhood, the third house is what that refers to. So like schooling, a lot of times with charts like this, I'll see like a Saturn down there, like a Chiron down there, but um, you're probably just very intelligent, and you know, I have Mercury retrograde clients all the time, and some of them had big issues growing up, but usually there's more of like an Aquarian thing going on that kind of led to that. Uranian Aquarian, but yeah, so it's very clear, like like Mercury trine Mars, like very good for communication also, and just getting things, and being able to kind of connect action with thought and with emotion. So it's just like and moon can be like the intuition can connect with your mind, right? So you have that mind intuition connection, right? And then it connects with your actions. Mars in the 12th house Cancer, it's like someone who really cares, and who will fight for the cause they believe in, and and the Lilith energy also will do that, right? So when it comes to love itself, right? Um, and also, having like the sun having the sextiles of Uranus and Neptune, right? Um, which goes like, wait, yeah, because there's like almost like a It's fascinating, right? And you have Ceres on your sun too, so it's like you're able to really like feel nourished and nourish others through this deep compassion and this deep love, right? And in relationships you would need that, right? You need like a level of depth. And I always tell clients, I get a lot of female clients, obviously, like it's not about like, because you know you the Juno in Cancer and so forth, like it's not necessarily about having that person who's like also like super spiritual and all that, but someone who respects your spirituality, right? Who doesn't get in the way of that North Node. My thing is gonna ring any second if he gets it right, or he's gonna call me and fuck it up. But yeah, so I think that, but like with 12th house Mars, like when they're not headed in that right direction, sometimes they can just like lose themselves, you know? There can be that feeling of like losing themselves to the abyss. And there can be like that push towards kind of like a less social existence, right? And when one can get hurt or is hurt, like in love, like it can be really difficult because it's hard to find someone that matches that emotional depth that you have, right? And then there can be that tendency to like want to really like repair people, as Pisces can be, and then take on other people's energy. So there's like a lot of space that's needed in relationships, and Venus in Aries, you know, which is stationed, right? So, you know, there's lots of karma there in that area of life too. And you have Saturn on the descendant in Aquarius, right? So it's like a lot of people with that, you know, they won't have their like most important relationships until after the Saturn return. Um, and it could also be like that it just takes that person a while to figure out like what they want in love, you know, what they value. But Venus and Aries, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do this. I think you can still hear me from downstairs if I move this a little bit. I'm just gonna go back on the share screen mode. Okay. And how can I do this? If I unplug, how much time do I have? %. No, that's not where I want to go. Okay. So we'll just move downstairs right now. I just like, oh, fuck. Not good. My camera just got stuck and unplugged. Okay. So, okay. My camera's, I had the microphone still attached and it just fell everywhere. Hectic vibes. All right. Put this here. I'll wait for this dude to deliver me my food, which is always a mess. Oh my god, he's here. Come on. He said, come on. Come on up. Wow. I am blown away. That was like amazing. I don't know how he got in the building without ringing. And I don't know how he, wow. Well, good thing I tipped him. That was the best delivery I've had. Sometimes they just like can't get in the, like it's kind of confusing how to like get in my building. And yeah, he was just like right at my door. Crazy. All right, back upstairs. So anyways, you know, it's very clear that in relationships, right? Let's go back. There I am. Like Venus and Aries, like a lot of times, like they like to kind of go after the person they want. Obviously, with all the water, it would a lot of times be like someone that's more shy. But with Mars, conjunct Juno, that would also kind of, even if it's in Cancer, it's like would give an energy of someone who would definitely like they're once again like lots of karma like in their big time relationships, and of course Saturn being on the descendant, like major. But like there's this real mix, right, of like needing someone that's not boring and it's not super too serious, right? Because your North Node is in Sag and in the house of Leo. But then there's also that need for that security, right? There's that need for that Cancer Juno, which is really about security, on an emotional depth, right? So that's super important. Is my freaking charger nowhere? I'm having so many charger problems. I know I keep getting interrupted, but it's just like my phone stopped like charging normally. And same with my computer. It's really weird. Like I hit all these problems with technology. Okay, can you turn white light, please? Finally. Okay. No. Stay. Like it will just die, my computer, if I don't fix this like right now. Maybe if I unplug this. Yo, what the fuck is happening? Do I have to go get my backup charger? None of these ports are working. Go, go, work, work, work. Did I test something underneath it to prop it up? Okay. Now it's working. I have to like go through so much stuff to do my readings. I have to have my hotspot working because my Wi-Fi isn't working. Okay. Well, anyways, so as I was saying, as I was saying, like yeah, the more you evolve, the more layers you kind of peel off, the lighter the energetic load gets, right? And then the further you move in, because like a chart like this, I would like predict that it would be like the Saturn return where that person can really step into themselves fully as a healer. Because even with like the Mars and the 12th, like in whole sign, the person can really feel like their personal power is like eroded. Like they can have issues with assertiveness sometimes, right? And there can be like these random emotional outbursts, like out of the blue, and kind of like feeling like detached and like if you're not moving in that like that true like kind of karmic direction, like that real feeling of being stuck in the south node, right? Um, so yeah. But yeah, back to love, right? So it's like, Juno and Cancer in the 12th, it's like, that deep, deep soul love, very, very karmic love. But the Saturn would have on the descendant usually it's advised to not get married before the return, because then Saturn transits over your seventh, and that's always difficult. So yeah, a lot of long-term relationships like fall apart or have really difficult times in the years around the Saturn return, right? But I think like a ninth house Venus, it could be like someone who's foreign, foreign, or at least able to kind of really help pull you towards that kind of Sagittarian energy, and that could literally just be like someone who just gives you freedom, where your guys' composite has this energy where you just feel like so secure, right? Like so safe, like that person is like a home. They feel like they're a home for you, right? Not like in a codependent way, right? Um, and I think like in a chart like this, I always think of like how the person, with the northern fifth house, it could be like a destiny to have kids and to kind of create a family that maybe, wasn't what you had. Um, I always think of that when I see things like this, right? Um, but overall, right? Um, with the Venus squaring those sixth house planets, and also with those sixth house planets, they can have like health issues, like if the person isn't like working towards, like if they're overworking themselves, like Uranus six, like you see me, I'm always posting about like how, like this is pretty early for me to do a reading, right? I've just been on fire today. Um, but like it's very common that like, your idea of a work day, or like your daily routine will be very different than normal people, right? And like I said, we both have this. So the Neptune, like I've worked jobs like in sales, and that were more like before I became spiritual and stuff. And um there's just this sense, this real like this feeling, right? Of like the everyday kind of grind, and just difficulty with coping with it. Um and it's really like someone who's meant to be of service to other people, and they can have also like really amazing connections with pets, karmic pets that like really bring you to that next level. And yeah, just like that, like your approach to like daily life can just be like unusual and a little bit eccentric, but um yeah. So the fact that these square the Venus, well, first of all, Venus square Neptune is the ultimate like kind of saying earlier, like especially being a Pisces, of like the idealist romantic, and it's like an exact weird pain here. It's like 0.39, like that's how close it is, right? To an exact square. Um, and there can be like someone who can be like unrealistic and rose-colored glasses when it comes to love. And with all the Scorpio energy, it can kind of come from like a projection sometimes, and just there can be, if there's like abandonment issues or something like that, it can like be where like you almost like there can be a tendency to like throw oneself at a potential partner too fast, and it's like too intense for that person, right? So it's really about finding, and it's all through your own, right? So this is like why it's so similar to my chart. It's all through your own development and your own like acceptance, right? So for me, it's Aquarius. For you, it's Aries, right? Um, of you valuing that part of yourself, you valuing that self-starter person person that takes risks and that wants truth, and that's what you care about. And maybe it represents itself in a career, maybe it's an astrologer, who knows? um HD astrology, like you have the chart for 1,000%, right? But what can happen is that there can be like this like the Disneyland kind of, not Disneyland, Disney movie kind of like disease or whatever. I don't know. Like where, there can be like unrealistic expectations. And also there can be like this feeling of because Neptune and Venus, like, every aspect is meant to be an asset. I just said it the other day. Like, that is like the mix of like Venusian. It's like, Van Gogh, I always say this, but whatever. Neptune is like the imagination to have the starry-eyed painting, and Venus was the actual act of it. So it's like the real combination of these two. But in love, it can be a little bit trickier, right? Because it can definitely be hard. Like you really have to like give yourself time to kind of like time with things, right? Because there can be like lots of difficulties in terms of like how you love yourself, which can, that's Venus square Neptune is like self-esteem, disappointments, in love coming from that, right? So it's all about self-love. That's the key with Neptune square Venus, right? Because people with this can feel like unlovable, and like I said, they can play victim sometimes, and just kind of fall away. Like once something bad happens, just like be too afraid to kind of throw themselves back into relationships. Why does my camera keep freaking doing this? Okay. I'm moving this thing that was underneath my charger. It's still white. So basically, like there's like a distortion with self-image here with Neptune, right? So it's like one great way is like, film yourself, like do vlog where you don't have to show anyone, because Neptune rules cameras, and talk about your emotions, right? Talk about yourself like you're doing like a daily kind of, where you just kind of like film yourself, right? And could also be through content. Also, Venus is about beauty, so doing things that make you feel beautiful, right, is also something that's really good. Dancing, getting deep into like your creativity is very, very important. And that's when the love life improves. And Saturn, being there is obviously gonna usually make like lots of karmic hurdles around that. But yeah, like the over idealization of romantic partners is huge. Like where you can be very blind, not you, just in general, like the Neptune Venus square. I see a lot, like being very blind to the faults of others, and want to play healer, want to play, that role. And it's just so important to have boundaries, and to take things slow, to know that a relationship does not start, according to me, until the first fight. That's how I feel. So yeah, being kind of blind to goal happened. Pause for a goal. So Roma against Sevilla, the final of the Europa League. It's a huge game. What a pass. Beautiful. One of my favorite players scored too. Paulo Dybala. Oh, what a touch. Okay. So it keeps making this freaking noise. I can't stop doing that. So yeah, like so yeah, it's definitely a tough one. there can be like self-abuse, really being like like until the delusion is like kind of looked at, like it can just bring all kinds of like energy vampires and whatnot, right? Being taken advantage of because you until you, but when you start to see your value, that gets pushed away, you know? So like the opposite of love is hate, right? And that's why like with this, there can be that potential for hating yourself and self-harm, like doing things like unhealthy eating type stuff. And, you know, a Scorpio moon obviously can go through, you know, it needs Scorpio moon to feel comfortable. They need that to be able to like express all their emotions and express all of their darkness and that raw them, right? And they can have like these mood swings like back and forth, right? It's a very intense moon sign to have. And like I said, there's that big link to like kind of the ancestry in the fifth or fourth, yeah. And the kind of like generational trauma and stuff like that. So you're carrying like a lot of energy for the family and whatnot. So you also got to watch out for like, you know, anything addicting, drugs and whatever it is, right? But overall, like Venus and Neptune, you know, it just kind of just adds the kind of the Pisces mist that can appear, but also the Pisces mist can also be the most romantic energy possible, right? Which is what that Juno in the 12th is looking for. So then with Uranus, this is what's very interesting because it's also like what separated like what, like a degree. So I think the big one with Neptune is like when people with that, like they really like have self-respect and boundaries for what they're willing to take, and they start to recognize like the red flags early. And you might be like happily married. I'm just saying, like I give these readings the same for everyone, just about, besides like kids and, you know, but for adults, let's say. But so the Neptune one is interesting because, right, Uranus, because that can, you know, Venus square Uranus is interesting because like, and that's the thing with Venus Aries people too, is that they'll go towards who they want, but then when they get it, sometimes they'll like want need a lot of space. They'll want independence in the relationship. So it's like that real mix of like that Cancerian kind of like watery, um, you know, closeness and security with that depth and that not getting in the way, and then also that fun, because like that's the thing, people with Venus square Uranus can get bored quite easily, right? And they can go from like wanting to be in a relationship to wanting to be alone, right? And they can sometimes see like their partner as like an obstacle to their freedom. um so there's like a big need for compromise, right? Which you can look at my post, the Aquarian relationship, from I don't know, a few weeks ago or a month ago, um where I speak about kind of my idea of relationships and how we need to take energetic breaks, how we need to, you know, some of us need to sleep in separate beds and have our own rooms and have space, um, and allow ourselves to have periods of time where we're away from each other so that we can, you know, regain that feeling, right? That newness. Um, but it definitely gives like an exciting love life, that's for sure. But yeah, it's just like definitely a need for freedom in relationships. And it kind of goes back to like that need for kind of intellectual stimulation, and just like that North Node and Sag and Venus in the ninth house also, you know, like wanting that someone who can add to your feeling of what is truth, right? Not take away from it. um so, you know, also like, you know, Venus rules money. So this the square is like, you know, you got to be careful with your finances and to not be cheated with a Neptune, not like believe people really like be very, very, very diligent when it comes to these types of things and spending. because Uranus can also make one spend, and spend. But yeah, like it's really about having like not like necessarily open relationships, but like an openness in the relationship, right? So yeah, it's like really, yeah, it's an interesting one actually. Where there's a part that wants that depth and another part that doesn't want to just be smothered, right? And that wants someone that keeps them on their toes. Um, so yeah. So yeah, the compromise, right, is someone who's open-minded, who's also like, unorthodox, um, and exciting, and who can it can also like give you that space and that groundedness and that security. Um, and where both of you guys can kind of express your uniqueness and freedom, right? Um, so on like even like sexually, like testing the limits there, like having that kind of connection is very important, right? Um, so yeah, it's really good for creativity too, Uranus, Venus, right? And there can be like relationships that start really quickly out of nowhere, just boom, they happen. And then big ups and downs. And the same thing applies to finances, right? It's like it can kind of, so it really, it's exciting, but there's a need to ground the energy, right? So yeah. So and then like on that whole thing, Mars square Jupiter, that can be like very impulsive, right? And it's 0.04, so it's very like close. So that is about like acquiring self-discipline, um and like I think of like Jupiter squares is like it's really good for expansion and all that, but sometimes it's like promising more than you can chew off. So it's like about being like more realistic with your really thinking things through before making big decisions like that. um so yeah, it can create like a very impulsive person. But sometimes you need some of that, right? I have Jupiter square my Sun and my Mercury, and I've learned that those are like Superman syndrome, right? It's where like you, like a perfect example, like with my subscribers, right? I started a subscription a few months ago, and I was like, it's gonna be the best subscription. I meant that, it's gonna be the best like astrology subscription on Instagram. And I started doing like daily, kind of like not daily, but like like very frequent like current astrology, just for my subscribers. And then I just stopped. Like I just like, I don't know. I just like I just like I think like some you know maybe not tough times, but my energy, as you would be like me, right? Like there's like these like very sensitive to the energies around you, and like it goes up and down. So there's times where you're way more social, and there's times where you're way more closed, right? So you know I've had to kind of like rebrand it today to where I'm just like, look, like if anyone wants to leave, half the people left and I feel bad, right? So it's like with Mars, it's similar, that's more about actions. Um, but like the intention's good, right? Especially with Mars and Cancer, because it can be really, really, really about like saving the world and going for a cause you believe in and so forth. But yeah, the self-discipline is really, really important. but yeah, like kind of finishing my story, like when I wasn't able to deliver, I kind of just like didn't really say anything, or I just was like, maybe like I'll start doing other stuff, something will come. And then just finally today I made that reel where I'm just like, well, I don't know, I didn't know it would show up on my feed like that, but basically saying like, if you want, like literally like at this point, like I can't promise much content for just subscribers, but if you feel, like you want to support me, like I don't get paid at all for all this content I put out, um, you know, feel free, and you'll get discounts on readings, and like perhaps in the future, like I'm gonna think about like other ways to do things for subscribers, like it creates this kind of randomness energy, right? Um, but really it just was like, and this is a big thing for you too, going from the 11th house south node to north node and Sag, is about creating spaciousness for yourself to create fifth house, right? And you can't have that when your life is just full with people and with like things that, like, yeah, you might love them, you might have had a connection with them before you evolved. That's why the eighth house person, I always like tell them that, like, moving, especially Pluto and the IC, away from like where they have all their friends and all that, like why that can be the best thing for them is because they can very well you know evolve, and it can be kind of awkward and hard to connect with the people that are still kind of you know more or less similar to how they were, and then they want the old version of you back, and then it's like this weird energy. All right. And I love how you have your sun exactly sextile Uranus, so it's like really, really just giving you like this ability to express like kind of your unique talents, and um that your individuality in a way that's not like offensive, and that other people could kind of dig, and with Neptune also, right? It's like it gives like lots of like kind of karmic both of these like opportunities for you to express that kind of magician, mystic, intuitive, kind of artistic version of like person you are, not version, person you are. But I didn't really talk about how like Black Moon Lilith, right? Oh, I'll finish off what I was saying, like with the love stuff, like going back to that, like just Saturn being where it is in the seventh. There's always like a lot of like the karma is in relationships, and there can be a big fear going back to that square with Uranus of commitment in relationships, right? Um, and your seventh house is ruled by Uranus, right? Your descendants in Aquarius. So it just speaks more to like how that kind of Aquarian type of relationship could be very nice for you. And yeah, it can make one feel like very, very overwhelmed in like kind of close one-on-one relationships. But then, Saturn, the planet of karma, of lessons, it's like you learn a lot through them, right? And then after Saturn return, or during or now, it's like a lot of the energy is becoming easier, and you become someone who's very capable to have long term, like in compatibility. Saturn is the glue that keeps relationships together, so having that is beautiful. And then Pallas is right next to it, as I was saying earlier. So that actually is really good for like someone like a psychologist or astrologer, because you have a lot of wisdom in terms of how people relate to each other, right? So it makes it really good for counseling people, but it also creates like difficulty, you know, kind of sharing your feelings with intimate partners. And the Scorpio moon might just be suspicious, right? It might be thinking things like, if I tell this person my weaknesses, they might use it against me. I'm like that. But yeah, like Pallas and Aquarius is just so brilliant, and just grasping ideas quickly, and very future minded. So it's really nice to have that with the Mercury and Pisces retrograde, that kind of like futuristic duo. Um, so, and then Vesta, it's in whole sign the seventh, and sixth, it'd be sixth in Pisces. So like, on one hand, that could speak to Vesta seventh. I always think of like as people who are very committed to making relationships work and working on themselves, and really like truly looking at their role in the relationship, and they can be really loyal, like a moon in Scorpio is looking for loyalty in love, right? They're looking for the one. They're not looking to fuck around, right? I mean, they are, in your case, definitely for some fun and all that, but ultimately, commitment is something that loyalty that is like held super high, right? So, and then like Vesta, like for Aquarius, it's kind of like Vesta, you think of it like a more fun version of Saturn. It's like, you work best like with freedom, and you're able to work well with people, and there's also that tendency to want to escape from that typical routine, and it's very humanitarian, and wants, like you want to do things that give you like a sense of kind of individuality and like your very unique mission, right? So, and then you add the vertex in Capricorn the sixth, and you're like, all right, well, I see that so much, because that's related to someone who is, meant to, they achieve like the door, like their higher awareness through being of service, right? Pause. This is halftime. So, you know, it's really like about building things, build like really doing something that has a real profound effect on the world. So also, it's funny, I'm holding up crystals, but crystals can be like you can have a really strong connection with these. And yeah, like learning to use these like in interesting ways, you be very connected to this, right? Um, so yeah, I think that there's also like times where you'll feel like the need, mountains also, like being in the mountains can be very, very healing for you, and kind of getting away from it all, having times you're able to just escape everything, in a good way. I'll talk about it. But yeah, and like yoga that works on the chakras and alignment in that way could be very, very important as well. And yeah, no Earth personal planets too. I mean, yeah, you have Jupiter. It's kind of, I think of it as a middle planet. No, wait, you have none. No. So like me, like, yeah, there's that big need for groundedness, right? Big need for having that routine locked in, right? Because when you do have that routine that hits your emotional, physical, spiritual, and that right environment, like that's where you're able to really thrive. Um, and let's see. So another cool thing about the Min Square Chiron, obviously there's like lots of wounding there, right? It's not cool, but like, it is what it is. And there can be people who have that, they often feel very misunderstood. A lot of times it's by their own mother even, right? But it's the ultimate healer aspect, right? Because you're learning to like rise above your own pain, and in that you can reclaim all of these talents, right? These past life karmic talents that you have, um, and that's just massive, right? And I was wondering, I was like, I just had this intuition. I love when this happens. I was like, nodes Chiron? Yeah. Your Chiron trines your north node, it sextiles your south node. So that literally shows that like you've been a healer, and that you're meant to be one, I think. You have this real karmic talent, and that your journey to your North Node involves, being a healer and stepping into that role. And it takes different timing for everyone. Some people are like, "Oh, I'm already doing this or I'm already doing that," but like, you know, there's always that potential to just have your moneymaker and then and of course the eighth house rules inheritances. So you could be, good in that respect. A lot of people I see, they'll have like charts like this, right? Where it's like, you would have a second house Jupiter in Pisces, which is like the financial guardian angel, right? Um, so maybe you do have kind of the financial side of things kind of figured out, and it's really meant for you to dive into the spiritual and all of the stuff we talked about this whole reading. But yeah, so yeah, Black Moon. Okay, this is what I want to talk about. I'll move the stars. Black Moon Lilith, like being like in Pisces alone, it just like you think of like what's the lowest side of it? Well, it's escapism, right? Go ahead and share the screen again. So okay, so yeah, the lowest energy of that escapism, right? So I feel as though it's a mix of that, and you can look at your Mars too and think of like the idea of like running away from emotions, or like something doesn't work out, um in that area of life, right? And yeah, there can definitely be that potential to shut down and to not want to trust. So that's massive, right? Is learning to trust. Um and also like another potential for that is, you know, playing victim, right? And kind of just hiding away from society, hiding away from not facing what you're meant to face, essentially, right? Not facing what you're meant to face. Um, oh, yeah. 1 second. Anyways, I think that Ceres on your sun is a beautiful placement. Because as I said, like the conjunction, having it in Pisces, it's like your second moon, but less important. But just it can make you very Ceres like, so very nurturing, very supportive, wanting to help others. It's good for finances too. It's good for a lot of things. And yeah, it just makes you someone who can be like a very great healer and very just really able to kind of connect with people on a deep level and really give back, like you've incarnated with the intention of learning how to nurture yourself and others. So like that's why you're receiving nurturing early on. If you didn't, would be indicated by what I'm seeing, would have been extra hard, right? And there could be a potential of you being like, there's a big need to kind of like balance out like the give and take, right? So it's like, yeah, that like either like nurturing others or accepting nurturance essentially, right? And also another thing about Ceres is that it's related to rebirth also. So there's this like, once again, this lifelong process of shedding old beliefs and relationships and just moving on and growing, which is like so eighth house, right? But like the beautiful thing of this and why I think that this is such a huge one for you as a healer, is that you have that, and this is like one of many parts of your chart that give you this, that ability to truly sense what other people need in order to feel safe and be heard and feel secure and all that, right? A lot of people who have that, like they're kind of like you know, the pillar within their family. People lean on them for support, but then it goes back to the whole thing with boundaries, right? And it goes back to the whole thing about the correct, like being able to accept, right? Like some people with this, like I feel like it's difficult, like they give, but then it's difficult to accept, and like that could be a very South Node 11th, you know North Node in the 5th, I guess. Like as a Leo rising, you're here to learn to lean into your creative purpose, right? And to accept um the praise and accept like being, taking a little bit, right? So giving like it goes back to like that need for, for time and space, develop that kind of like the identity outside of just who you are in your family, right? If you have kids, who you are as a parent, right? Um, like so that's kind of like the gift and the curse, is that it does take that like that there's a need to remember to nurture yourself, which can be easily forgotten. Um, so yeah, it's like a very like meant to be um meant to be healer, but you got to watch out for that. And then like having Lilith on your sun, like that's the person who, can reflect like the negative or the positive of Pisces, but it's very, very witchy, very witchy with it. Um, yeah, so very karmic love stuff going on for you. Let's go ahead. I'm not gonna make you stare at that. 2 hours. Wow. I thought I stopped doing that. All right, let's see. So obviously, no, obviously, let me just get these in my brain. Which ones did you have? Oh yeah, you have Alphecca Moon, of course. So good. Ooh, your IC is on Serpentis. That's really interesting. And you have Psyche around the IC. They're just like, oh man, that's so like, that's so interesting. Okay. Psyche Pluto, just like there's a need to like dive deeper and deeper and deeper into the mysteries of life. Okay. Okay. You have Hecate on your vertex. I don't really like look at these, but like Hecate is another one of the which ones? Just saying. Interesting. What's this? Fortuna? So Fortuna, which is really linked to like, fortune and fame and all that is right on your Neptune. So it could be like being a gift, bring you lots of fortune. Okay. Oh my God. Stop saying iPad lost. Fucking God. I literally, so I think things in reading sometimes. I don't say them, and I'm regretting it every time because like I literally thought this. I swear. I was like, I wonder if she has Urania like on her sun or her moon. Because that's like the fucking asteroid of astrology. And you have it right on your sun, a degree away. So like you are like astrology, anything related to the stars. Does human design count in that? Like I'm not really sure, but that's beautiful. Like just quite like just because like you have the chart of an astrologer, even like the Jupiter and Libra, like Libra is being able to balance like the peep like the council and to kind of like bring beauty and bring peace, right? Um and through your communications, through your writing, whatever. That's Sirius on your Mars. Okay. And then yeah, I think Eris on Venus also can definitely make one very it can make that Venus a little bit Marsy. It's already ruled by Mars, so um a little bit explosive in love potentially. Um I doubt I'm gonna be able to find anything on this, but okay. So the biggest ones were what is it? Alphecca and Alphard. So yeah, so Alphard, you have that on your sun. It's like a very like it's one of the really like musical ones. Very artistic. Um, so for rising, mhm, So it's good for prosperity. Yeah, it's a really good one for just success in general. Could bring like gain through marriage. But there can be harsh words towards the pleasures of love, and with the passing of age, participate in some priestly office, are esteemed for some religious practice of self-mastery, refuse some foods, red meat question mark, and are experts in occult books that become lovers of the sciences of the sky. Their eyes are somewhat glaucous and glittering, and their appearance is beautiful. And they're prosperous natives who have many possessions. Okay, so yeah, Alphard is a good one. And it's close to Hydra too. Hydra is 28 Pisces, you're 26.16, and Hydra is like astrology. What's happening here? Okay. So then Alphecca on your moon. So this is really good because Alphecca I know is like a very beautiful star. And to have that on your moon, like that's like the best degree of Scorpio, 12. And so it definitely is just a beautiful energy. It can bring like a lot of public honor. But although it does say trouble through underhanded dealings with enemies, but the eventual triumph over them. Remember, these are written so long ago. Greatly esteemed by Venus and Mercury people. So it's that Libra, Taurus, Virgo, Gemini. But that doesn't mean that it's like those signs. But yeah, Alphecca is a really nice one. And it's very feminine and idealistic and refined and gentle and intelligent. So it's 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 nice, right? Very, very like great artistic ability and kind of like sometimes like too many like I said, it's good for arts and all Venusian stuff, but also maybe like too much of that potentially, like which would be like too much of like the worldly stuff. So yeah, and then after that we had Psyche with Pluto, just giving you more of that urge to just go deep, deep, deep into like the psyche and like what makes us motivated and all that. And then just like the fact that your sun moon midpoint, like where your sun, your moon converge, is like with Fortuna and Neptune / Uranus, is just like speaking to like how that kind of daily work of like a healer and everything is like how you kind of get your worlds to meet, your yin and your yang, the kind of like the culmination of them. It's like 2 years away. But yeah, Urania around the sun is crazy. And Industria is quite close to Mercury, so like literally like your work could be really linked to this kind of like psychic mystic kind of 8th house Pisces energy. Like it's like so many signs, like it's crazy. Algol's far enough from your midheaven. It's on my midheaven. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I've been trying to keep these to 90 minutes, but did not succeed today. But you know, it's a fascinating chart. What can I say? What can I say? Last thing I'll say is most people wouldn't like, you know, and I wouldn't really like look too much into like stars, asteroids on the nodes, but like it's cool to just see white moon Selena on the north node, because I think of that as like spiritual protection. And I get this vibe that you have like so much protection, like whether it's like finances or whatever it is, like when you're headed into that direction. But once again, you know, the journey from that air to that water is not always so easy. So yeah, but like you have, you know, a lot of these stars are very good for you know, for success. And the last one is Sirius, right? Uh, you know, so you know, with Mars, it says courageous, generous, military preferment, which I take as just being very good for sports and stuff like that, and kind of combative work and connection with metals. But you can just take the courage and generous part. And you know, Sirius is really good for business overall, right? So it's like there's a reason the US chose July 4th, Sirius, right, as its birthday. So the dog star, you know, it's very ambitious. And you know, the 12th house, it could be like, you know, success, you know, in spiritual work. So yeah. So as I said, very interesting. You know, the follow-up, let me know about, let me do one more thing. Let me know about if you want to add the current astrology. So yeah, you go 1-1. Very time to enjoy the end of this match. So yeah, like you would have like 2 grand trines, but you know, don't really look at the north node in that way, you know, as being able to, it's just it's not an actual planet. But like, you know, like if you do think of it like just from the energetic standpoint, it's north node, right? Chiron and Venus. So like north node, your future karma, and then Venus and Chiron, right? Like Venus trine Chiron is you know, it makes someone a very gifted healer and teacher, right? With like that real gift of experience and empathy, and just being able to like see the beauty and the potential in people that they're healing, right? Like it can be someone who's just in the dumps, but they see them, and they give them, and like when they see who that person could be. And that's such a gift. So I hope you enjoyed. This is magical. Um, and yeah, let me know about the other one, and when you're ready to set that up. 2 hours 18. Holy shit. All right. Ciao, ciao.